If you get knee pain when you're running downhill, especially at the front of your knee here, you've probably been told you've got tight quads, you need to do some strength, you might have been advised to look at your running form, do something like lean forwards more when you're running downhill, and those might work. But the main thing that causes knee pain in runners that are running downhill hasn't actually got anything to do with strength or form. And if you're doing this one mistake, you can do as many single leg squats as you want, but you're not going to solve the problem. But before we get into it, if you're struggling with knee pain at the minute and you're not sure whether you should be resting or if you should just grin and bear it and run through it, a free knee recovery score tool where you can answer a few quick questions and it'll tell you exactly what's wrong, if you've got an irritated knee, if you should carry on running, if you need to rest for a little bit, and then gives you a few little tips on how to resolve it and whether or not you need to go and see a physio or a sports therapist or a doctor, or if it's all good and you can manage it at home. And to get that, just go to the link in my description below, fill out a few questions, it'll take a couple of minutes and you'll get a score straight away, a few tips and some next steps. So as always, I'll give you a reminder at the end of the video, but for now, let's get into your knee pain when you're running downhill. So, why does your knee hurt more when you're running downhill than when you're running on a flat surface or when you're running uphill? Your knee, when you're walking, absorbs 2 to 3 times the weight of your body, which seems manageable, but when you're running, that jumps up to 4 to 5 times, which is a big increase, and it can sometimes creep up to 6 times your body weight. But it's not just the force that your knee's absorbing, it's how it's being absorbed. On the flat, your foot pretty much lands straight underneath you. Running downhill, your foot is forwards and your body weight is coming from this kind of angle. So to do that, your knee needs to extend a bit more, which means your quad, which is your thigh muscle, needs to contract to be able to do that. And it needs to contract eccentrically, which is when the muscle's lengthening. So it's a bit like a brake. Imagine going down the hill in a car, your brake's working a bit extra because the force and the weight of the car's moving downhill as well as the speed that it's already going. So the brakes need to stick on to slow the car down. So it's working harder because you've got the momentum of the hill as well as the speed of the car itself. And that braking action, the centre of gravity is going that direction, which is obviously going to lean somewhere down here. So the front of your knee takes a lot of force when you're going downhill. Now, here's where it gets interesting. And by interesting, I mean the bit most people get wrong. The mistake isn't what you do when you run downhill, it's how you do it. Specifically, it's how you absorb the force that I've just described. Or more accurately, not absorbing the force that I've just described. And most runners, when they get to a downhill section, they kind of tense up, lean back a little bit, and that's trying to protect yourself ultimately from going head over toe and doing a roly-poly all the way to the bottom of the hill. Fair? But the stride gets longer, you stick your heel out in front of you, which takes a lot of the brunt of the force, and every step is sending a shockwave through your knee. So it's not that running downhill is bad for your knees, it's the way you're running downhill that is having an effect on your knee, which your knee doesn't like. And it's making it worse than it needs to be. Think of it like this. You're driving down a steep hill, you won't just slam your foot on the brake and hold it there, because then your brakes would burn out. Well, they won't last very long. What you actually do is kind of gently touch it, or you might go on and off the brake slowly to bring your car to a slow stop. Like little pulses to keep everything controlled and you're not burning out your brake discs and nothing's overheating. And running downhill is the same principle. The quads are the brakes in this scenario, and you're not just locking them out to suddenly stop straight away. You don't want them to be absorbing the force in one big wallop, and that is what's burning out the front of your knee. What you actually want to do is spread that load out a little bit to take a little bit of pressure off this so it's more manageable. And that brings us nicely on how to fix it. So there are 3 things that you can do to help solve the problem. And you can do them today or tomorrow or whenever your next run is. And it should genuinely make a difference straight away. Numero uno is shorten up your stride and increase your cadence. So instead of going big steps all the way down the hill, we can slow them down and take them nice and slowly. So those little smaller steps are spreading the load and the force out a little bit more evenly rather than doing one big step over and over again. If you imagine doing hops across the road, each hop is really heavy, isn't it? Whereas if you walk and do shorter steps, it's a lot more spread out. And it's the same principle. When you're going downhill, you want your legs to be landing directly below you, not out in front. Shorter, quicker steps, which feels a little bit unnatural at first and a little bit like you're shuffling down the hill. But what it does do is stop that jarring heel striking motion which is having an effect on your knee, taking a lot of the force. And it spreads it all the way down the leg rather than just at your joint. So aim for a higher cadence. So you want to go for 5 to 10 steps more per minute than you would normally do. You don't need to measure it and you don't need to start counting your steps. But just think quick, light, controlled steps. So if you're doing more steps than you were before, then that's an improvement. Dos, use your hips, not just your knees. A lot of runners, as I said here, lean forwards as you're going down a hill and they bend at the waist. Well, that's not it. You want to lean from your ankles. Think of Michael Jackson. Your whole body moves as one unit. And what this does is engage your glutes and your hamstrings, and that helps absorb the impact, rather than relying on your quads and your knees to take every single bit of the load. Now, don't get me wrong, your quads are doing a lot of the work still, but they're not doing all of it, and that's the main point. 3, control your speed, don't fight it. Now, this one is probably the most counterintuitive one. Going downhill isn't about fighting it, it's kind of going with it. If you're leaning back and braking with every step, then you're basically fighting against gravity, and unfortunately, gravity is going to win that one. Instead, think of it as getting a free boost of speed. You're doing less work than when you were going uphill, or when you're about to go uphill, so make the most of it. Use the hill to help you through your run, but stay in control. So shorten the strides, as I said, keep the cadence up, keep your body position length forward all in one unit, and it's that combination of the 3 that makes a big difference. Now, obviously, if you're on a bit more of a technical run, like you're doing a bit of trail running, you're going off-road, you're doing some cross-country, you do need to take a little bit more caution because you can't just go down with the gravity because you need to watch for uneven ground, you need to make sure you don't stack it. So that takes a little bit of extra thought. But for most road runners and even light trail runners, these 3 little adjustments will make a massive difference and it will take loads of stress off your knees. So if you do a lot of hill running or downhill running in particular, then every time you do that, or even every step on that decline, will be adding a bit of force and potentially inflammation to your knee. So if you get home and this bit here is throbbing or it's sore while you're running, then these things are just going to take a little bit of pressure off that, and over time that'll make quite a big difference that you might not understand there and then while you're running. But what about strength, I hear you ask? Now, I'm not saying strength isn't important and it isn't going to solve the problem. What I did say is you're running downhill, so you can have really strong knees, but that isn't going to undo the damage you're doing if every step you're doing is massive and we're having to deal with 6 times your body weight. But strength work alongside technique work is where the magic happens, especially eccentric quad strength. So to explain, this is concentric, where the muscle's contracting like a bicep curl, and eccentric is where it's lengthening, but there's still load on the muscle. So as it's getting longer, but it's still under tension, that's the eccentric motion. So as you're running downhill, obviously going uphill, your quads will be working harder in the traditional way, but going downhill, they're acting, as I said, like a braking mechanism. So it's going downhill, so the force is still going through them, so they've got to be tense and controlled, but it's as they're lengthening, and that's what eccentric loading is. So things like slow step downs off a box, slow single leg squats, but really concentrating on that lowering stage. So as you're doing a single leg squat, rather than concentrating on the upwards bit, really slow it down and concentrate it on the down phase, which is the eccentric part of the exercise. So if you concentrate on that downward phase being about 3 seconds, then you're working on the eccentric load. So rather than going down quickly and focusing on the upwards part of the squat, if we really slow it down, then that just works on that quad control and eccentric strength, the lengthening of the muscle. And another one people often overlook is glute strength. And your glutes help stabilise your pelvis, and that has a knock-on effect to keeping your knees in the right position. If your glutes are weak, then they can lead to your knees moving slightly inwards. And if the alignment of the knee is slightly off, then this little bad boy, the patella, is not going to fit in the groove that it's designed to move in. So that can lead to other issues at the front of the knee. If something's rubbing, if it's not quite smooth like that, if it's a bit wibbly wobbly, then that's going to cause pain and inflammation. So working on the body as a whole, not just concentrating on your quads, is going to have, again, a big effect. So yes, strength work will help, but do it alongside the technique and the way you actually run downhills as well. So the key takeaway, if you do get knee pain when running downhill, you're probably braking a little bit too hard. Long strides, leaning back, and causing all that force to go into the front of the knee. And the fix isn't one magic thing. It's short, quick steps, making sure you're landing under your body, and we're spreading that force out over a number of steps, not just big jumps in between. A slight forward lean in between the ankles. Think of Michael Jackson while you're running down that hill next time. Staying relaxed, not fighting the hill, using it to get a bit of free speed, saving your energy a little bit, because you're probably going to need it on the way up. And then when you're next in the gym, make sure you're working on that eccentric quad strength, glute strength, and while you're there, might as well work on the hammies, the calves, and everything else that goes with it. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Pardon the pun. And downward running is a bit of a skill that you need to learn. So give these tips a go on your next downhill run and let me know how you get on. Now, if you're struggling with knee pain and then you're not sure whether you should rest or should just run through it, grab that knee recovery score, which is in the description below. It takes 2 minutes and it can give you a few little tips. It's completely free and hopefully will give you a bit of a clearer picture as to where you're at with your knee pain. And if you want to learn a little bit more about knee pain when you're running, watch this video. But thank you for watching this one and I'll see you in the next one.